everyone. Happy Halloween. I'm Joanne Lee, and I'm here with Mandy for part 2. We have, as always, a full day planned, and what we did yesterday was we redesigned the Hulu mobile experience, and we had done some exciting wireframes, and today we'll be finishing it up today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. People who are just joining the chat, hello, everybody. And we will also be reviewing the creative challenges later today, and we'll also get to see your portfolio as well. It's something that is exciting that Mandy wanted to share with us today. We will also be doing another round of giving out Moo gift cards, so stick around in 30 minutes for a chat and win session. It's going to be a really exciting time for anyone who wants business cards or just wants another polishment of, their freelance or their business. These are really awesome ways to hop on that opportunity. So I'm going to turn it over to Mandy just to pick up and do a review of what we did yesterday.
Yeah. Hey guys, happy Halloween. So for those of you who don't know me, I am a product designer over at Walmart e-commerce. My background is in illustration, storytelling. So what we did yesterday is was reviewing the current mobile experience for Hulu, and really focus on the homepage experience, and we talked about what we like and what we don't like. Through that, this is the progress that we've made yesterday. So we really try to restructure the homepage, elevating features that we like, and really tone down the use of color and trying to make sure the visual choices that we made were purposeful. And yeah,
and we also talked about just different use cases in terms of users' intent. And so we talked a lot about how accessibility plays a really big role within redesigning a mobile experience. And we also talked about text hierarchy and really using color in a purposeful way to make the important elements show. And Mandy, you are also an illustrator. So a lot of her storytelling skills come out within the mobile experience of telling a story while someone is going through the user experience. So yeah.
And another thing to keep in mind is what we're looking at here really is just us exploring one path. And typically in the process, or at least my usual design process, you start with super rough wireframes and you sort of explore all the different ideas that you can have. So 50 different ideas, if that's the case. And it really is about proving whether this design solution breaks or not. And then from the ones that work, you can narrow it down to the ones that you like or the ones that are feasible. So this is really just one out of however, there's probably really 20, 50 different solutions that we can come up with.
Yeah, and when we look over to the chat, we have some people joining in. Hello, Alexis. Hello, Tim. Hello, Agata. Agata's actually asking what program are you using to do illustrations?
Yeah.
Do you do it with a drawing tablet?
So for me, I use Photoshop for the most part, and I have a Wacom tablet at home. I also have an iPad that I use. What's the program called? Oh, Procreate, and also Fresco that recently just came out. So those are great, and if you have an iPad, I honestly, or if you don't are thinking about investing one, I do highly recommend it. It is a lot easier than carrying a computer and having to plug in a tablet, and it also just takes up so much space to work. But if you're just starting out, tablet is a much more affordable way to explore digital painting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We were actually talking about it before,
Yeah.
how a tablet just allows for a more direct surface to draw on, but tablet is also something of a skill to get used to.
Yeah.
And so very exciting different ways to get into illustration. Hello, Richard. Happy Halloween. Stone, hello. We're just gonna go back into how far will you be taking us today? I see some new designs over there on the side. Just give us a little rundown.
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, yesterday we focused on the homepage experience, and today we'll be wrapping that up and really refine the progress we've made yesterday and dive a little deeper into the bottom navigation, specifically around search and browse. So to recap a little about yesterday's thinking and progress, we chose the homepage experience because Hulu, or a video streaming platform, is so much about discovery. So how can we make this landing page a little more exciting and cater to users with all kinds of different intents, and not just, let me show everybody an overview. This is the current experience, and not just have this same sort of template for everything or every show and everywhere you're in the browsing experience. So right here, this is the main homepage. So what we did like about the existing experience is the chips on the top, the navigation on the top where it has like different categories of what is being highlighted. So like that. And so I decided to really pop them out a little more and make sure that there's always a peak at the end, so you know that there's more for you to swipe through.
And we also prioritize the information that shows, right? And so we noticed from the previous experience, there was a lot of information that we found maybe users would like to see up front. And so we surfaced that to the front and then also showed that within the buttons and the affordances of each TV show or movie that pops up.
Right. One thing that we talked about is what is essential to the design and what are the things that are nice to have. And it's really important to start off with the essential components and elements, and you can always add in the nice to haves, but it's key to have a solid foundation.
Yeah, and we touched yesterday on what we consider as a nice to have, you know, how you go through that decision-making process, right?
Yeah, really understanding the user base. So depending on the platform and depending on the product, what is nice to have can be very different than my personal hypothesis. So our decision yesterday was actually based on my personal hypothesis, but in the real world, with enough time, it would be ideal to conduct a study of some sort, or based on past information that we already know about the users, then proceeding with laying out what is essential to them. So with the rest of the homepage, what we are looking at is this, I would call this like a hero section, the main part of the homepage of what we want to highlight, the shows that we really want to feature. So Castle Rock was the example Hulu has on their homepage. That's the first show that showed up. So we have here not Castle Rock. The play button and the more button we thought were important to keep. This bookmark is something that we elevated. So in the experience today, once you tap on more, this little bottom sheet surfaces where you can go to the details page or add it to My Stuff. So I thought My Stuff was a little vague. There's a little bit of visual inconsistency with the choice of icon. So I wanted to make sure that's a little more clear, which is why I chose this bookmark icon. So it's really about fast and easy. I want to remember this or I don't want to remember this.
And Sedan in the chat is asking, while starting on an app, I get confused from where I can start and how. Can you please suggest some links, also an Android versus iOS design?
Yeah, so typically when I start on pen and paper. When I don't know where to start in terms of designing, I kind of just start writing out the key problems and basically creating a traditional mood board. The writing out the key components that we need to include, things are nice to have. And I personally always start with iOS. It's fairly easy to translate iOS to Android. It does take some understanding of the components on Android. Certain things may not be as user-friendly to Android users. One example would be swipe to remove. That's something iOS users are very accustomed to, but Android users not so much. So there are things here and there to keep in mind. And yesterday we also talked about like the learning process a little bit. So my learning process is sort of like learn as I go. When I encounter things I'm not familiar with, I look into that specific problem rather than say watching a how to make an Android design tutorial as a whole. I find that learning method a little more efficient for me. So if you're having trouble with Android designs, perhaps I would say honestly, just gotta get started. And there could be a lot of things that are just so wrong, but you just learn as you go.
Yeah, definitely. What I do is sometimes Stone is also asking, mood boards are like storyboards?
Not so much. I think of storyboards as a visual journey map for the experience that you're designing. Mood boards is honestly just like grabbing anything that inspires you, anything that you want to be, you want to include in this project, and just dumping everything into that big board.
Right.
So for us, even though not so much of a mood board here, but just references. References are always really helpful, whether it's a color palette or components that you want to use, setting up that visual style, or if you are working on improving a feature that's in an existing design, having the current design next to you is always super helpful.
Yeah. Also, sitemaps are really a good way to organize the information that your app will have. So, starting with like the home screen, listing out in like one words what will be in there, like a menu that says share, library, favorites, and then drawing the line between if they click on a library, what will that screen look like? And just creating that information architecture really lays out an organization of your app.
Yeah, information architecture is definitely very important. And don't feel pressured to jump right into screen design and to the visuals or to the layout. So one example is what we did here. When I think of a page, and this may not apply to all the features, all the screens, but a foundation I try to follow is sort of like storytelling, that there should be always a beginning, middle, and end. So on this page, the beginning would be these pills on the top that really, on a high level, showcases the categories that you'll be able to see. And this is a landing page, so it's not where you browse everything possible. It's just the things that we really want to feature. And the middle is the meaty section, what we want to highlight, and this like scrollable section. And this right here is sort of like an endless loop. So you can just keep looking, looking through the large images of what's popular now. And something we talked about yesterday is flags. We can add a little flag here that's hot and new. And then the end is some carousels that really lays out. So this one is keep watching. Some other ideas we have would be featured, picked for you, comedy, romance, all that. So there can be like an endless list of carousels on the homepage.
Just an app with all sorts of carousels all the way through.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But what was important, at least to me, is keeping in mind that we want to keep the exciting bits above fold. So this dotted red line here is where the fold is, and this is a 375 device. So iOS, iPhone X, iPhone XS. For the most part, I think 375 is the most common, and it's easy to optimize for 375 and scale down to 320, so smaller iPhone devices. And so you can see that all three of the beginning, middle, and end here are above the fold.
And when you're talking about putting in the bottom navigation that you're describing, that's also something that will be interesting to see with the design that you have here.
Yeah, definitely. So likely it will cover a little bit of this carousel, but it's fine. We still have plenty of it above the fold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, John. Thanks for joining in. Today, just as a refresher, Mandy is going through the current experience of Hulu, specifically on the mobile device, and we have identified some pain points within the application. And so she is redesigning all of the different pain points and proposing these solutions. So a lot of things are coming our way.
Yeah.
And today we're just focusing on what the homepage looks like and what the bottom navigation, once implemented, will change the experience.
Yeah, so why don't we continue with the progress that we made yesterday?
Yeah.
So yesterday we realized that this More button calls out a bottom sheet, but there's a lot of missed opportunity with this bottom sheet. It doesn't really offer much, and you're sort of tapping on one action just to make a decision to go to a details page or to add it to my stuff. But frankly, I don't know the user base enough to say that these two, or my stuff, is at the same level as details. But I've made the assumption that for me, when I tap on this More button, I expect it to go to the details page to have a better understanding of what the show has to offer and to be able to see the episodes. So right here, this is the current details page. So you can see that the top navigation is also utilized to see episode you may also like, and there was another tab, extras. So we really wanted to boil it down to the essentials, which is details and episodes. And I wanted to elevate that one level up to see if we can basically fit this page and what it has to offer onto the bottom sheets. So this is where we landed on yesterday, having a little bit of a sneak peek of the description, so you don't lose context of which tile you're interacting with. And then putting the episode list down below, having a little filtering system for different seasons might help with navigation. And another thing we talked about is as we continue designing for this bottom sheet, we realized that there's more and more things to fit on here. So we added a grabber on the top where we can allow a swipe motion to expand this bottom sheet to become a full page experience.
Yeah, definitely. And we also talked about different affordances that causes a different experience. And so we also mentioned that, like, next to season 1 there's a tiny little carrot. And that carrot is something that we were like, this isn't final, but this is a conversation that we would like to have.
Exactly.
Like, what is the best way to call that affordance?
Yeah.
There was a question. Agata asked, was it requested by Hulu or did you just do it for fun?
Just did it for fun. The reason why I did it is because I'm personally very used to linear projects. So customer journeys are much more linear, like e-commerce, where the main goal is basket building and then checkout. And that's sort of the entire life cycle of what the customers came there to do.
Basket building. I like
Yeah.
that term.
Yeah.
Just put everything in your basket and
Check out. Yeah. And with the checkout and post-transaction process, it's even more linear because you don't want to distract the customers.
Yeah.
You don't want them to abandon cart and see other shiny things in the experience, like, oh, what about this? What about that?
Right.
So it's really important to keep them focused in that experience. But for Hulu, that's something of the polar opposite. It's all about discovery from beginning to the end. And even when they finish up an episode, can you surface more things for them to discover? So it's like an endless loop of discovery. It's like a totally open world. But how do we achieve that while not disorienting the users and still make sure that it's very clear where exactly they are and where they can travel to outside of the tab that they're in?
Right. And Alexis has asked if you have any advice for new designers starting in UX, and how did you get your start?
Yeah, so I actually have a background in illustration. Joanne and I went to the same school, and I was an illustration major, but I transitioned to design post-graduation because I realized that storytelling through illustration, although like very visually satisfying, I felt like there was more impact that I wanted to make, and design sort of serves that. How I transitioned was, luckily enough, I was surrounded by a lot of resources, and
Resources like what?
like friends and faculty members from CCA that are in the design realm, so I was able to have a lot of conversation with them to ask for advice. And frankly, it was a little hard to ask for advice because you don't know what you don't know. So I really didn't know what I wanted to ask, but I just knew that in order to land a design job, I needed to build a portfolio. So start from there, depending on where you are in your portfolio making process. Ask anybody that you may know or watch. I think there's a lot of YouTube videos now of tips on building a portfolio, and it's important to watch other people's portfolio review as well. What I didn't know was I thought I had to really saturate my portfolio and fit in as many things as possible to showcase a full breadth of experience. But in the real world, unfortunately, a lot of people don't have time to really deep dive and review everything that you have to offer. So it's really, I would say, include 3 to 6 maybe max number of projects that really highlights your skills. And if you can fit everything into all your design thinking or your skills into one awesome project, that's enough too. So I hope that helps. I hope that answers the question.
Definitely. I'm actually more of a fan of like less is more. So I feel like having like 3 solid projects.
Yeah.
2 going in depth, 2 very light. Gives just like a really good like teaser. The portfolio is a little bit of like a trailer, and like the full movie is you.
Yeah,
exactly. So that's really the goal when building that career.
Yeah, and I would say personally, after being on the hiring side of things, it takes very little time to realize that this person has an eye for design, and I think that a lot of times comes given from designers because there's so many people that are just really talented. But what is really important is design thinking. So when you, for instance, go on site for an interview, make sure that you're always thinking out loud. That may take some practicing, and sometimes when you first started, when you're first starting, it's very nerve-wracking. But just talk to your friend, or talk to your friend, or just practice by yourself out loud.
Yeah, very much how you're doing this.
Exactly, to see if the story that you're telling makes sense. Yeah, and hope that.
Yeah, that was very helpful. That's very helpful advice. Definitely like to see that like actually in place. So it's really nice to hear that, design thinking of how that goes, of thinking out loud. And I feel like you're doing a really great job of really explaining all the different elements that you are choosing to put in this mobile experience. Are you going to put in any images here? Some colors?
Yeah.
What do we have? How is this going to change and morph and grow?
Yeah, another thing we talked about yesterday is about presentation. So a lot of times I think choosing smart dummy content is very important. So whether it's text or images, choosing images that complement each other and complement the space, and text that also fills up the space nicely and not just cut off at a weird point. That's really important in terms of like presenting and really it'll really elevate your product and really help sell this idea that you have as well, just to make sure like nobody is distracted by a bad image or by like a weird orphan you have in your paragraph. However, it's still important to plug in realistic images and realistic, or try out your design with realistic text length and all that, just to make sure it works, it doesn't break. Always try out the worst case scenario. So that's something I always include in my files when I deliver something. What is the worst case scenario? What if this show description is incredibly long? When does it truncate, and what does that look like? It's really important to provide that for your engineers as well.
Yeah. So are there going to be, can we see that actually happen? Let's see, like,
Yeah. Okay.
in a scenario where there are images and there is text, how does that really apply?
Yeah, so I filled in a bunch of random text here, but let's say let's say this is for presentation's sake. You want to fill up the space a little nicer.
Yeah, there's also really awesome plugins for like filling up base text. I think it's called like text filler or lorem ipsum, something like that. But there are a lot of awesome plugins that can just do that automatically.
Yeah.
In any case that you need it.
Yeah. So for this case, we could truncate at the very end. And then what we can do is add a See More button.
Yes, Richard mentioned it. It's Wikify.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Wikify is a good plugin. You can actually like type in the topic that you want to talk about, so it's not lorem ipsum. So if you typed in movies, then it'll just give you the Wikipedia page of movies.
Awesome.
And so it's a really awesome
super
plugin.
useful.
Yeah. We have about 55 seconds till our chat and win. Just letting you know. But this is looking very good. Look at all that
See More button,
text.
maybe. Alignment's a little weird here. Perhaps right here. So play around. A lot of like placement of things just takes a lot of noodling. And I will say I'm not the fastest at this, so like bear with me if this doesn't look great. But it's part of the process.
Yeah, and it's not about what it looks like. It's about what it means. And how it's helping users.
Exactly. And part of the process is really about how many times can you fail. And I mean, I think every project that I've worked on so far all has that like gnarly rut where you really just have to push through and really, get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Very exciting, good stuff on the way here. We would like to know in the chat what you guys are dressed up as for Halloween. And from there, we're just going to see who wins, who's the lucky winner of a $30 gift card from Moo. We'll be right back. Is a witch what you're going to be for Halloween?
Yeah, I think so. Frankly,
Yeah.
it's kind of a lazy costume. I just have to wear all black and pop on a hat.
Yeah. What are some favorite costumes you worn in the past?
I wore in the past. I don't think I'm like an awesome costumer, but my friend and I one year was Regina George and Karen from Mean Girls.
Yes.
That was fun.
No one was Gretchen Wieners?
No, unfortunately.
Let's see in the chat. Richard said he's going to be, I think that is a sushi for Halloween.
Nice.
Agata is going to be herself after a lack of sleep. Please get some sleep. Always be healthy. Eric wants to win. We hope you win. Who else? We have a Viking. Jack's going to be a Viking. Stone's going to be Casper the Invisible Ghost. Yeah, I wish I was a ghost.
Yeah.
That'd be really fun. In the past, I was a strawberry. I was an egg.
That's so cute.
Yeah, I was very food related for a while, but now I've related to the Dalmatian. But yeah, everyone, we'd like to hear what you guys are going to be for Halloween. Oh, we have a winner, Agata. Congratulations. Yay. You're the lucky winner. We hope that you can find a lot of usage for this gift card. And so, we have some more people. Melanie's going to be a mermaid. Mermaids they have such beautiful colors.
Yeah.
Yes, I was an egg. Jack is laughing at that. But yes.
I like it. Were you like egg in the shell?
I was I was a sunny side up egg.
Aww.
But yeah, for those of you guys, the rest of you guys will be able to get a discount from moo.com. So feel free to hop on there and really use all the great things that Moo has to offer. So going back to the designs, I'll let you take it away.
Cool. So we were just talking about how to fill up the space very nicely in terms of dummy content that you have in your designs. And frankly, in a realistic world, sometimes the description might look like this. And that's okay too. So depending on the feature, and you can obviously set the spacing rule to be dynamic. So when there's less content, perhaps this button moves up. So that's something to always keep in mind and think about. But do always provide a worst case scenario when you pass the work on. So in this case, it truncates at the very end. Okay, so then something that I want to circle back to is this carousel experience on the homepage. As I kept thinking about how to optimize for these carousels, I think specifically for Keep Watching, maybe we can give it a little more personality. So Keep Watching, I would say, it's a special, nice to have, and it's an essential for returning returning viewers. And understanding the user behavior is super important. And today, I'm making the assumption that if it's a show that you that's on your Keep Watching list, you're likely a lot more familiar with it. So perhaps the image does not need to be that big. So we can fit in more carousel tiles on there. So let's see. So if we make these guys a little smaller, I think that's good. We can fit in another one on the side. And in terms of elements that we need on this tile, so play button obviously would be super important. This information button, perhaps not so much. And let's see, the progress bar, I would say, is really important, telling you exactly where you are. So let's see what we could do here. So I would say this play button, bring this guy down. And I'm torn about whether or not this covers more of the space. And this is when, this is why I like to do visual last. This time around, we're having a little higher fidelity of a process, but typically I like to really noodle through the visuals last. So then you really understand the different use cases.
Yeah.
After you finish the entire design, you know exactly when this play button comes in and how to figure out a universal treatment that applies to all instances.
Right. Yeah, it reminds me of, now that I'm saying like 3 different things to keep watching, kind of reminds me of like when I read books, I do the same thing. I start like 3 different books, and everyone's like, why are you reading 3 different books? Like, how do you pay attention to all of it? So I wonder what it might be like if there is a main TV show that someone watches, and Hulu can identify that and offer that as like a single choice option, because there is something of just like choice overload, where you're just faced with so many decisions you have to make through the day, and it can get very fatigued. And so this is a really great progress right now in terms of like really minimizing how many options to give. Carousel also invites users to go through their additional options without like laying it right in front of them. So that's definitely helpful. In the chat we have Tim, who says, I could probably dress up as a designer's worst nightmare, a missed deadline.
No. Oh, man. Actually, not as bad as you think, really.
Really? You've missed a deadline before?
Always.
Oh.
Well, it's not as bad as it sounds. So a lot of times things out of your control happens. So engineering misalignment, if something is happening with their team where they have to move resources, which leads to not enough people to work on your project, that can severely shift the timeline and the LOE, which is...
LOE?
Yes.
What is that?
What does LOE stand for again? So it's basically level of effort.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So a lot of times when we kick off a project, we sit down with engineers multiple times from beginning to the end to discuss LOE. So we need to talk about scope. What's in scope for this project? For instance, if we are talking, if this is the experience we have today. Previously, we didn't have these top navigation chips, and we want to add these in. If that's the scope, we talk to the engineers, see if it's feasible, and they look into their team internally to see how many people will be assigned on this per quarter. And sometimes that number changes, or sometimes as we move deeper into the project, they realize that, the interaction is too complex. We can't do this. So you need to have constant conversation with them. And because of a whole lot of reasons, sometimes it's not with engineers, sometimes it becomes very political, about different teams fighting for what needs to be on there, what's not. And there can be alignment reached before the agreed timeline, then that results in a missed timeline. But I would say perhaps not a missed deadline, but by having constant conversation, you can avoid a missed deadline and figure out what the new deadline would be like.
Yeah, so always knowing how much time will take you to do something.
Exactly.
And communicating that. So maybe someone who doesn't communicate is probably a designer's worst nightmare.
Yeah, I would say so, definitely. Okay, so one thing we can have here is, let's give it a little background for to include some text on the tile. So really basic information, just the name of the show, perhaps the length, or perhaps what episode you're on if it's a TV show.
Are you watching any TV shows at the moment?
I love Modern Family. The new season is out. Always a good show. I like light background shows that I can just put on. But I'm really excited to start Sabrina, the remake of Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
I have heard of that.
Yeah, if anyone's seen it already, let me know how it is.
Yeah, I recently watched Parasite.
How was
Which is
that?
a Korean film.
Yeah.
It was really good. It was like a thriller horror movie, but not too, not scary at all. It made you think more. But good movie. There are a lot of good movies that came out this year.
I'm making up show names. I'm really bad at making up fake content.
Yes, karaoke tonight. If anyone in the chat has some names that they want to recommend, we'd be happy to put it in here.
Definitely. It would help me out a lot.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, keep in mind font size. Be considerate of the smallest font size that you go. 12, I'd say, is generally where it's safe. 10 is kind of pushing it. I usually do 10 for bottom navigation, but for everywhere else, I'd say 12, probably the smallest. So I'm trying to figure out the information that we need on here. So title, and let's say this is a TV show. We would say Season 1, Episode 4. Perhaps we say, what other information is important on here?
There's, Season 1, Episode 4, maybe
Episode length?
Episode length is helpful, and also maybe reference back to some of that screenshots that you gave with Hulu. That'd be helpful to see how they
kind of information do they
things.
have. So I did notice that they include very little information, and perhaps that's enough. So a lot of times in terms of what to include, if you're running out of ideas, reach out to content, look into past designs like you mentioned, and see, look into the user data to see if there's something that we should be including that you think is missing. Always a good thing to propose as well. So let's see. So on here, there is the episode information, title, and length. So let's do the same thing.
Karaoke tonight. What type of genre is that?
I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe like a competition kind of a thing?
Maybe, or like a reality TV show. That'd be fun. Kareem said your witch hat is awesome.
Thank you.
It definitely is awesome.
Thank you, Kareem. Okay, so as I'm going on here, I'm realizing that the tile itself is sort of running out of space. And instead of cramming things together and trying to fit them all into the tile, or having to increase this piece of information down here, I'd rather not do that. So as you go, you can really try to figure out what is the optimal design on ours. So I wanted to make sure this piece right here with the text information is as small as possible, so we don't block off from the main image. With that said, I'm realizing this play button is obviously blocking, so a design needs to be figured out for this play button. So perhaps a transparent background of some sort would be great.
Yeah, or maybe like moving it to the right where karaoke tonight and all that information is. Like,
moving it to there could work as well. So let's try that. Great idea. I'll make sure it's the same size, or try to make sure the elements that you are using is as consistent as possible, unless you feel like, oh, this really is too big for this tile. So I feel like maybe this is a little big, maybe the style can be a little different. Perhaps we just use the highlight color and not the white background. All different things that you can play with. So let's see, I want to put the progress bar in this section, and I'm realizing, not very visible. So these are all just like visual challenges that you encounter no matter what. And you just kind of play with it, see what works, see if this is a little clearer, but then the text is not dark enough. Let's see if we can use darker blue.
It reminds me, for Netflix, they use like a bright red, and
Yes.
they create a very small progress bar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think progress bar is something that is a nice to have, but not the end of the world if you do not have it. And so maybe it's the style of the progress bar that is different. Be the white. Yeah, that's something we'll have to play around with, but I won't bore you guys with that. Let's move on to the other carousels. So I wanted to make sure that keep watching, the tiles are smaller so we can fit in more, and really highlight this play button so it's easy. I want to see more, tap into it, and then this piece of information, the more, I would say is still important, but not as crucial. So perhaps it's right here as part of, or right next to the title of the show. So maybe that's something you do, and this is obviously very big for the show, so it needs to be a bit smaller. But do keep in mind that tap targets needs to be at least, I would say, 16 pixels apart, to help with like users with fat fingers, to make sure that they're not accidentally tapping on one thing, but they meant to tap on something else. So those are really important things to keep in mind. And to check that, just adjust your zoom to 100%. So this is realistically what it would look like on your phone.
Yeah, and you can also cast it to your mobile phone if you have the XD app. And so that's also a really good way to test as you design.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's move on to the other carousels. So one thing to keep in mind is consistency. I cannot address that more. A lot of times you get carried away with exciting ideas, and you're thinking about, what are 5 different types of carousel treatments that I can have? But I would say keep it as simple as possible. Less is more likely than not, always more. So in this instance, I would say I just want 2 types of carousels, because along with this hero section of the infinite scroll and these pills that are also swipeable, scrollable, it's a lot already. So keeping it as simple as possible. So the rest, maybe this is featured or picked for you. Sounds a little friendlier. And then these guys could remain just at a larger size. Put them a little closer. 24 is good.
So this is going very personalized route.
Exactly, yes.
This sounds like it's something that is specifically for people who actively use Hulu. I wonder how it's also a component to think about when creating the experience for first-time users, how that changes. And so that's also some things to think about as we're designing here.
Yeah, definitely. So that's just another use case that we have to keep in mind. What is the experience like for first-time users when we know nothing about them? So I would say in this case, the top section remains the same. Keep watching would not be there. Picked for you would probably be a different carousel that's popular now, or Hulu Wing.
Yeah, there's also different onboarding things that apps do, where they're pick some genres or pick some TV shows that you're already interested in, and
yeah, exactly,
gives you a customized amount of TV shows and movies to start watching.
Yeah, and with onboarding, that's a good point. But with onboarding, we have to make sure that it's not incredibly overwhelming. We're not just dumping everything,
Right.
all the features that we offer to the new user space. You want to leave some room for discovery. So something that I've seen some apps do is as you enter to a new tab, there comes a little animation of some sort that highlights a certain part, a certain tab, and it's like a little tooltip. So those things can be really useful as well. I know XD does that. Sometimes when I'm designing, a little tooltip will pop up, be like, hey, did you know that you could like create prototypes this way? So those things are really nice. It's like a nice little moment of delight. So I think I'm happy with the structure of the page now. And let's look at the bottom sheets. So something I talked about that I wanted to do yesterday is, what does the bottom sheet look like when it's at a full page? Mm-hmm. So let's duplicate this artboard. Oops. And we can delete everything in the back. Move this thing up.
Got some images back there.
Mm-hmm. And what is this? It's a lot of little stray things in the back.
Gotta love when that happens.
I know. It's a very messy demonstration, but
no, this is
very real. The idea. Yeah.
This is very real.
So one thing to keep in mind is that when it's a bottom sheet, when it becomes full page, the grabber still needs to be there for,
to pull it back down.
To pull it back down. Sometimes depending on, this is largely dependent on you, how you want to set the rules, how you work with your engineers. Sometimes you can propose to have a little peak always, have a little sliver of some sort.
Yeah, so, I was gonna say that people are maybe not used to seeing that bar as a call to action to slide it down.
Mm-hmm.
They might be looking for like an X, sign.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, having some information peek through, gives them the idea that they can close out of it.
Mm-hmm. So in this case, I'm proposing that the full screen view locks the bottom sheet on the top, but there is always a little sliver of a peek of what's in the back.
Yeah.
And this may not be the best affordance or may not be the best solution again, but it just takes a lot of exploration, and this is just one option that I'm thinking of off top of my head. And then moving on to the rest of the page. So looking at the experience today, I learned that there's really not a whole lot of information included with the episode information. So here, we're jumping forward a little bit, but I think it's good to see. So this is the browse path. Once you tap on browse, you see the categories, tap into it. These are the shows. So there really is like very minimal information. And even here, this is a search, what it looks like. So based on this, I'm learning that maybe less really is more. Perhaps too much text really overwhelms the users. Perhaps they're not even reading any of it. And if they really do, they will go out of their way and make the effort to the details page and make choices like that. So based off of that hypothesis, I want to make sure the episodes have a very large image. And the information we provide is crisp and minimal. So right here.
What are some applications that you are inspired by that mimics this minimal imagery?
I would say this may not be a fair comparison, but I really do enjoy like Uber and Lyft's experience. Everything is really straightforward. I'm not really intimidated by where to find things. Though their their experience is also very linear, and most of the action happens on that one main screen.
Yeah.
I think another thing that I can think of visually, I really do like the New York Times. Anything else that comes to mind? Do you have any that?
Yeah. Something that comes to mind, I think, let me see. I think Spotify does a really great way, especially in terms of like multi-platform devices. Their designs are very easy to navigate through in terms of like revisiting your playlists, discovering music that's relevant to you. All those things are like the key components of what really brings me back to the application. What else?
And with something that has a whole lot of like components and maybe like a busier application, I think some food delivery apps do a really good job displaying really appetizing images and making sure that it's not too overwhelming. You know which restaurant you're looking at, and there's a really easy navigation system for you to see the menu that they offer digitally.
Right. And just as a refresher, there's just a lot of things that we're doing here that Mandy is leading us through of redesigning the Hulu experience for the mobile device specifically. We're visiting a lot of different pain points that go into navigation, also within like the beauty of simplicity of showing visuals to really get to the point. Those are all the things that we're working on right now.
Yeah. Okay, so this is what I've got so far for the bottom nav, or not bottom nav, bottom sheet, full page. I'm pretty happy with it right now. I think information is very clear. You have the context of what show you're interacting with. You can tap see more to expand. And this affordance, maybe when we get to a different use case, we'll realize, oh man, like this really needs to be on its own page. So today's process is fairly linear. We were talking about it yesterday. My own process is pretty like explosive. I kind of bounce off everywhere, which I like. I may not work with other people. You may work with your process might be a lot more like organized than mine, which is totally fine. There really is no formula. It just whatever helps you think out loud and think visually.
And having something there is always better than nothing at all. You know, like when I think there's a lot of ways and instances when we get stumped, and we think like, wow, there's so many things that a lot of designers can say that is necessary within this application, and it's easy to be like, okay, I'm not going to make anything at all. But you know, placing something there, I think this is going a great direction of where, you know, when I do press on a details page, I do expect to see all the other past episodes that come up there. So I think this is going in a route where, you know, the information should be presented in this part of the experience.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's less common that, at least for me, these days it's less common that I'll be able to design a whole app from scratch, which is always super exciting. But more so than others, I'm really looking deep into the existing experience and picking out the pain points and how can we improve on the existing experience. So that's something that I'm definitely more familiar with. So looking at their Hulu's details page right now, I'm realizing that we're dedicating one full page just for the show description and displaying one episode here that doesn't tie to the show description. So I had made the assumption that this description is tied to the episode, but I later learned that it's not. So, you know, things like that.
Oh, interesting.
You pick out the weird things here and there and improve upon it. And yesterday we talked about, or I talked about this little guy right here and what happens when you tap on it. So I took a screenshot here. This is what happens when you tap on it. You see the same information you have here, just a little more, and then you can save it to my episodes, which really confused me.
Because there's the stuff.
There's the stuff. There's my episodes. And they share the same ad icon. I don't know if it's a safe assumption to say that they can be found in the same place, but I did go to my stuff after it's nowhere to be found. Oh. So things like that. And like in every app, I would say there's like weird things here and there that like we're all like all designers are humans. Like we miss things here and there. And a lot of these misses are not due to like a miss on the designer's part per se. Perhaps it's, oh, this is less of a priority to get into this release.
Right.
That's why things like that happens. So
Alexis has asked, at what point in your process do you test your design?
I think that largely varies on the project. I have tested at the beginning, tested at the end. So one example I can give you is when I test in the beginning is when I feel like I don't know enough about the users, and maybe this is a new problem that I'm trying to solve, and there's no existing data we have on what the users would be, how they would behave under these kind of circumstances. So if you want to understand them a little more, mock up something. And a lot of times when you're testing, it doesn't have to be high fidelity. It can just be wireframes.
Yeah, the more low fidelity, actually, the better. Because then you can really get to the nitty gritty of, does this information make sense?
Yes.
Do you know where you're going? You know, and not get distracted by the prettiness.
Yes, I actually have experiences where the high fidelity design hinders us from having a non-biased answer from the customers. So one example is that when we were testing, we made high fidelity mocks thinking that, oh, this will really help mimic the existing experience. We even like put in some like animations here and there to really make sure everything is translated. But one user that we had actually got a little confused and forgot where she was because we were throwing a lot of scenarios at her. So she for a second forgot and thought that she was looking at the real app. And she was like, oh, that's weird. This is not what I saved on my list. Or, you know, things like that. So that high fidelity mock-up actually hurt us a little bit.
And you talked about scenarios. What is that? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so when you are testing, you always need a research plan to map out what exactly you want to learn. And through that, because when you're making prototypes, it's going to take forever and so much throwaway work. If you make everything tappable, you probably know this. It just becomes a pain. And so it's important for you to sort of lead the participants onto one path and not tell them what to do. Not tell them, hey, now tap on the play button. But tell them, what do you see on this page? If you were to watch this episode, what would you do? That's a really like straightforward question. Like, but one example, how do you guide them into doing something? And if they say, oh, if I want to watch this, I would just tap on the image, then you know there is something off about your design. So you collect their answers and always make sure that you test with a whole bunch of people. The more the merrier, I would say. But sometimes I've had instances where we booked 20 participants, but after we get through 10, all the answers were the same. Then we realized, oh, okay, we feel confident at this point to move on with the design or with a different direction. We don't need to take the time of the rest of the participants.
Yeah, it's a lot about like going with the flow.
Exactly.
Just being like, okay, it seems like this is what we're at. Always reiterating the process, just like how you're reiterating designs all the time.
And I would say testing early is always good. There's no such thing as learning and gathering too much information about your users. Typically, when I test in the end, I actually do not do not really recommend testing in the end because you've gone through so much and designed out so much with still a lot of open questions. And if you testing in the end, you're likely going to have to redo a lot of the stuff that you've already done. A lot of the stuff you already done could turn into throwaway work, and you just invested so much time and emotion into something that may not even work or is not preferred by the users.
Right. So what we were looking at here was the my episodes and then the my stuff. So how do you plan on really clearing that up?
Yeah, so I think here this affordance may not be the best solution. That in both cases, there's really very little offered in these bottom sheets. So bottom sheets, I think, typically really highlights the information for you in a non-disruptive way, because you still know where you are, but it just surfaces some stuff for you. But in these two cases, I don't know if they really offer that much. And I don't really know if tapping on the three dots, the more icon here, and calling out the bottom sheet with this little bit of description is what I expected. So a lot of times the icon, usage of icon, has a lot to do with context as well. So in the previous instance, in this example right here, tapping on more, I would expect to see more details about this show. Given the context, given that I'm in this homepage experience, there is not a whole lot of description anywhere. So tapping on more, I'm assuming it would just show me more, but I'm not committing on tapping on the entire tile itself. So it's probably not going to open up a whole new page.
I see.
That's the assumption I was making there. But in this instance, the context is that you're already inside of this show's details page. Why not have everything on here? Or I'm also questioning, why are we highlighting this episode in specific? Well, now I can see that it says watch latest season, but that wasn't as discoverable as I'd like it to be initially. So information hierarchy is another issue here. So let's see. What I wanted to dive deeper into today is the search and browse experience. So we already looked at these stuff a little bit. So browse experience. When you tap on the browse tab, this is what you see. So you see networks, TV shows, movies, all that, different categories, genres. Tapping into one calls out, so I tapped in TV shows here. This is a list of different TV shows being highlighted, and then tapping on more calls out the same bottom sheet.
The same pattern, yeah. You really gotta admire their consistency, though.
Yeah.
You got their same navigation on top, you got the navigation on bottom, you know what's gonna pop up when you click the three dots.
Yeah.
There's a sense of reliance that they incorporated in here.
Yes, yeah, that I definitely do appreciate. And then let's look at the search experience. So when you're on search, this is what you see, and this does not have any like typing states, but you just see these two tabs, which I do like. It really it fills up the space, because search likely itself, if you don't have anything, it would just be empty. So it's a waste of real estate. So I do like how they're utilizing the real estate here by showing the trending searches to give you a little bit of inspiration, and your recent searches to call up your memory a little more. One thing that I am noticing is there's a lot of different ways to display shows, episodes. So I wonder, how can we visually make it a little more consistent? And for browse, especially this page, I feel like there is definitely a missed opportunity here to make it a little more visual. But browse is somewhere where browse is like the ultimate directory. It should be very clear, should be very scannable. But when I tapped on browse, my first reaction was, oh wow, like not what I expected. I didn't expect this page to be so text driven, considering that this is a video streaming platform.
Yeah, and also I would say like you have a good point. When the browse, you expect the discoverability really to kick in, and just to see these texts at the same time though gives a good breathing room, because maybe this is the only part maybe of the experience where you only see text.
Yeah.
So there's like a good and bad, and I think that there's a balance between like adding images and what that can do, as well as just keeping it as text.
Yeah, definitely. So I think you're right. For browse, the priority here is definitely the text information rather than images. So unlike episodes and shows, you don't really have a specific image that you would show the purpose.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I would say with something like browse, let's start a new artboard. See.
Oh, it's right.
Oh,
up
it's right
there.
here.
Yeah. Just kind of.
Oh, why did it do that? Anyways, move these guys over. Oh, I started 2 artboards. Didn't even notice.
Yeah, that's fine. It's because the artboards, every time you create it, it goes right next to the one of the previous artboard.
Ah, makes sense. Okay, so let's move the browse stuff a little down here. So I think in this instance, this is where I would just do really fast design and try out like maybe 3-5 different options to see what I like, what I don't like. Because a lot of times it's hard to just think about what works and what doesn't. So let me copy this down.
We have some new people joining in the chat. Hello, hi. We are redesigning the Hulu mobile experience. So Mandy is currently working on the browse section of the application.
So something I was thinking to do is having, I wanted to spice up this browse experience just a little bit, while not distracting from its original purpose, obviously, which is easy scannability, and still making sure that all the offerings are above fold, so you can see everything immediately. Let's see if this is, 812. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here. So perhaps we make it a little bigger.
Very exciting. Don't know what you're doing here, but I'm very excited to see what's going to happen.
Don't really know what I'm doing here either. So I think what we can do, something we can explore is let's pull up a random image. So let's do this one. And then, so what I'm trying to do here is have a very faint image in the back, but still have the bold text in the center of the tile. But let's see if I can achieve that right now.
Yeah.
So shape. Right here, and then let's see. I want to, let's just make another square on top. Make it black.
We have Tim and Alexis saying to try the repeat grid. That might change our lives.
Oh yeah, I do know about the repeat grid where you make one shape and then turn this on. Am I doing it correctly?
Repeat grid, yeah. So since we're learning for the first time, let's see what that is. So I think the sidebar's there.
I see.
There you
yes.
go.
Yeah, so you drag. And then you'll have everything here.
Look at all those different genres.
Yeah.
Look at all the information it could possibly hold. Definitely did change our lives.
Yeah,
Thank you for
definitely.
that suggestion.
Okay, so for the purpose of this, I'm just gonna quickly, and then so the first genre is networks, and then I want it to be a different color. Let's do white, to be a lot bigger, 24, maybe too big, who knows.
I personally really like big text.
Yeah.
I just like it where it's just like I don't have to read fine print, and I'm just like, okay, this is all I gotta know. It's a very good way of portraying information simply.
Right. So perhaps something like this, just to give it a little something, but may not work for all the instances. Maybe Hulu originals would be too long, but you could always go in 2 lines and wrap. Ooh. I do feel like there's opportunity for the text to be just a little bigger, but
yeah, don't be afraid of big text.
yeah. Oh, I need to do the texting you taught me yesterday.
Yeah.
So I press T, right? Drag.
And you just drag your box. There you go.
Then align.
Tim also mentioned within the repeat grid, you can add components to it, so you don't have to completely manually repeat text or images or layovers or anything.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah. So yeah, maybe something like this for the browse page. Maybe we stick with like a very crisp menu for everything. And I think with the same concept for a search. So one thing that we realized that in the current experience, tabs seems like a big thing. So top navigation tabs seems like a big thing. But for search, I think it's a very fast process. I tap on search. I think my next move is probably the search bar.
Right.
It's a natural intention. So I think recent searches is actually a little bit hidden right now for my liking, because if I don't tap on search, or if I don't tap on the recent searches tab, then I probably wouldn't see anything. So that's something maybe we can consider surfacing in the active typing states. So when you are typing, there is, or when you tap on the search bar before you start typing. So once you start typing, likely there's going to be a type ahead. But before you start typing, maybe this is what you see. The recent searches is what you see.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to suggest that. I know a lot of applications do that. Just because mobile, it's already kind of difficult and nobody likes to type on it. So recognizing that is a great way of quickly getting someone to their favorite show.
Exactly, yeah. So let's see. I do want to add a bottom navigation to our experience right here to see what it will look like. Let's make this a little shorter.
Yeah, let's get a home button. Let's get a library.
Yeah.
Let's get a profile.
All right. So maybe for the sake of this, I'm just going to delete this carousel. We don't need it. Bring this up to see what the experience looks like above folds with the navigation bar added.
Nice.
I think it's 8:12. Okay.
There you go.
Cool. Okay, so let me add a rectangle here. Probably a little taller.
What are you more a fan of, the horizontal navigation or the vertical one where it's like in a hamburger
I would say for iOS, definitely the horizontal bottom nav. I find hamburger menus to be more
Delicious.
Yeah. And definitely more for Android or for our web situations. But for iOS, I think a lot of us are very much accustomed to this bottom navigation.
Right. And it's also just closer to your thumb.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, phones are just getting so large these days.
Yeah, and it's a lot more visible. You
Yeah.
see the tabs immediately. You don't have to tap on the hamburger menu.
Right.
For those of you who don't know what a hamburger menu is, it's typically on the top left corner. It's like a 3-line icon. You probably have seen. Tap on it, something comes in, and it's a list of menus, which serves the same purpose as the bottom navigation.
I wonder who named that. I wish
Hamburger menu?
Yeah, I wish I coined that
I wonder
term.
too.
It's very simple.
When I first started, I was very thrown off by that. I was like, what is a hamburger menu? Because I thought it was like a food, because I started in the food industry.
Right.
So I was like, oh, is it like, does it have to do with like
Just
food? But then I realized every company has a hamburger menu. So yeah. Okay, so what do we need here? Let's bring this guy closer for reference. So we need a home. Don't have a little house yet, so I'll build one. Need a person for accounts. That's good. Drag it over. So I made these little eyeballs for browse. So because I realized, so if any of you have recommendation or have seen really creative icons for browse, definitely let me know. I feel like that's something that I always struggle with. It's
For
such a
icons?
yeah, it's such a browse. Everybody has browse. It's such a common universal tab. But I have yet to see a really great browse icon.
Can I show you a plugin?
Yeah.
If you go to the top right here, let's go full screen. I have it pre-downloaded as plugins here, and I just have like a random project that I did. If you go onto icons and symbols, you can type in like browse, and you get, you know, searches of different options you can place in as browse.
Nice.
And it's just this awesome library that you can just access right within here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can we take a look at what browse has?
Yeah, so let's go back there. So Browse gives us some little web pages and also a web page with an arrow pointing in, like an open and browse. This is like an actual browser right here. So it's just a great way to get that going.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can hop back over to you.
Cool. So yeah, I think what they have here, also very similar concept, a window of some sort. Maybe that's the most intuitive. But for today, I just thought it would be a little
Those
more
are fun.
Be a little more creative.
Yeah, that's really fun. It reminds me of an illustrator, Ketnips.
Oh yeah.
Do you know Ketnips?
Yeah.
Ketnips is a illustrator. He makes comics, but all of his characters have those same eyes. So I really like that fun comedic
Well, these
element
guys,
to it.
obviously a little small compared to the other icons, but it's okay.
Yeah,
We'll work with it.
it's an idea.
And then my stuff, so I want to get rid of this box with a check mark inside because I don't know what that means, my stuff. And I want to change the language of that a little as well. So I want to use this same bookmark icon just so you know. So this is part of like visual communication as well, just so the users know where exactly to find this the show that they've saved by making the visual association of these two icons. It's a little more intuitive than my stuff and having a checkbox. Yeah.
And just letting you know, we have about 4 minutes before we hop into the creative challenges.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. So I won't spend the time to make that little house then. but I do want to see. So one thing that I want to call out for bottom navigation or any like icon usage, really, in terms of top nav, bottom nav, side nav, anything, is when there are icons that are not as universal. For instance, outside of search in my account, especially this browse thing, you need to label them, definitely. For ADA reasons is a big one, and just for clarity reasons, they really need to be labeled. But if you are just thinking of popping a little account icon on the top right or something, or having a search on the top, that's something that that's a universal language. Everybody has already known what that means. Then you don't need a label. But with that said, it's always it's also important to use them as what they are most commonly known as.
Right. Yeah.
So, for instance, a heart, most commonly used and universally understood to be a favoriting feature. Don't use that for like a health thing, or don't. Unless that's the context of the app. Like I know the iOS native like health app has the heart. So unless it's in that context, but if you have like a, for instance, a video streaming platform, or a grocery food platform, don't use the heart to indicate that, oh, this is healthy.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's one example. Just so the universal language remains consistent. Customers, your users don't get confused. So that's really that's one important thing to keep in mind as well.
Eric is asking, what is the eye? The eye is the browse.
Yeah. So see, that's one. That's another reason why we need to label these if you're using non-conventional icons.
Yeah, and that's not to say like there is definitely a universal language that designers can rely on to make sure there's a low learning curve to learning new applications. But considering like that's not to say designers are creative in nature, and so coming up with new looks of an icon also creates these small delightful moments. When people are like, what's the eyes? And they're gonna want to click on it and see what's in it. So there's also a good and bad and a balance.
Definitely.
Using those.
And then if you aren't such a great icon creator or you don't have the time for it, there's a whole lot of resources. So Material Design already has a full list of icons that you can just grab. Non-Project has a whole bunch as well. And I know that someone earlier asked for like links for inspiration and whatnot. I think I really like this website called Mobin. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation. Mobbin has a whole lot of UX inspirations, and then you can sort and filter by feature. Super handy. And then Behance, obviously, another one, Dribble. There's resources everywhere, basically. But studying material design has really helped me have a better understanding of the different platforms and how they function and the native like sheets, like features and all that stuff. Oh, yay. Tim linked Mobin Design. I definitely highly recommend. Sometimes I just browse on there just because,
it's fun.
Just because it's fun.
Gather inspiration. Great.
Okay. And seems like we have a little...
so a little bit of review, maybe, just a recap of what we covered today. That would be helpful to share.
So today we refined our what we did yesterday for the Hulu homepage experience. So all in all, we restructured the homepage to be a little more exciting, to include a bit more than the experience now, where it's basically a top nav and one show at a time. It's a pagination scroll kind of a thing. So now we have structure-wise, basing off of my storytelling method. It's beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
And then we have the navigation. We surfaced this bookmark or saving feature instead of my stuff. And then talked about the different types of carousels for different use cases. So what we have here, oops, I'm still in the typing. So we have here is keep watching. That's more catered to the returning users. But below it, we have picked for you. That's more of a general carousel that has less tiles shown, and it's more focused on the imagery rather than the action of quick play.
Yeah, thanks for that overview. That was all the things that we covered today. We learned a lot in addition to that of like portfolios, what you can do to start out, also at what points to do user research and user testing. Those are all really helpful information. Now is the exciting time when we go into the creative challenge. So for any of you guys that don't know, if you go into behance.net /challenge/XD, you get to see all the daily creative challenges that are posted. And this is just a really great opportunity to be active, to learn more about how you can use XD in your daily design practice. And yesterday we covered the player page of designing a video player for a web-based live stream video service. The goal is to focus on the chat, adding icons, symbols, buttons, all the good stuff. Then today we moved into the mobile view. So a lot of what it is to design is always thinking about different platforms. So how does that really apply to the live stream video player within a mobile device? And so over here, the goal was, like the example might be your users might need to expand or hide the chat. So some information needs to be hidden and shown. So hopping on over to Discord, let's see what everyone has. And if any of you guys just want to get started right now, feel free to just give us some wireframes. We'd love to review it. We know that design is always a work in progress, so we have no judgment here at all. So this is uploaded by Osama. He gave us a good wireframe of what this would look like. This looks like it's for the web.
Ooh, nice.
And so this is just a
nice choice of images, I would say.
Yeah. Look at that chat.
Yeah, that's a great chat.
Look at that chat right there.
Yeah.
We're just reviewing the whole thing. We got a little flag. We got a little certified check mark here.
Yeah, I like the color choices, the purple and the yellow, opposite ends of the color wheel. Always a good thing.
Yeah, some color theory kicking in here. I really like this build-up of showing us where your thought process was. I just really understand where you were going here and what decisions you've made going into the next phase of wireframing.
I think Osama did a really good job with such a busy by nature page. Really highlighting the important things as you get down to each module.
Yeah.
I know exactly what I'm looking at.
Yeah, something that I'm really interesting is that over on top here, there's just the image.
Just the image,
and no information. That's just a very bold move, and I really
but it's very intriguing.
By that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We get to see how many viewers are here, get to see what's featured, the light stream, and you got a little fun copy here, an infinite of custom playlists to suit your tastes.
So I do it seems like there's two different treatments for live stream here. One is a little red pill, and the second one is that entire live stream module, and there's the side call out. I can't quite see what it says. The
side here.
Black overlay, that's really cool too. I like that treatment for live stream. It's different than the typical red pill that we've seen.
Yeah, I think that there's just a lot of awesome information captured here. And I'm assuming that this screen is what it looks like when you actually click on a video,
Yeah.
a live video,
Yeah.
and what you see. So you have, this looks like it's for a gaming video, and you have everyone on the side here actively cheering people on.
Yeah.
I also think it's really important. I like how everything is very contextual here.
Yes.
So, like, you know, proposing this challenge that we can really understand who your audience was and who you wanted to really design for. So this is really awesome. Any last word?
No, I really like this. It's a really great design.
Yeah, great job. Moving on to, let's see, some of this might have been for today. This was also uploaded today. Let's see. This is uploaded by Fahis. I remember looking at this. This was just a really great call out to all the assets and what elements there are in the wireframing. Oh, that is you.
Oh.
And this is now the next. We got it here. We got a little chat right here. Look at this.
Purple seems to be the theme here.
Yeah, so we got a chat here. We got some friendly shapes going on. And there's this cool shadow underlay here.
Yeah, I wonder what that means.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just for any live videos. That's a really cool like chat window shape, which I like. Although I would suggest bumping up the contrast with the chat window, especially the bar, the text field bar at the bottom. So if you squint your eyes, they blend together. That's one trick to check, to kind of like it's a quick contrast check. Just squint your eyes. Yeah.
To see what information pops out at you and what doesn't.
Yes.
I
think this explains the color.
Changes from one to another in a time interval or at an event of refresh. Oh, so he has different states over here.
Nice. Okay.
Listed there. Then we got a video.
Cool.
That's a quick run through. Oh, so the search bar stays fixed during the experience. Wow, look at this prototype. Look at these animations.
Very nice.
We'll play it one more time.
Very nice. Ooh, that was cool. That was cool animation.
Yeah,
I like that.
I like the choice to put the past streams in a different segment of the actual current video that someone might watch, because it can be very like oversaturating of information. And what he kept it here was very simple, just the information of the video.
Yeah, I like that as well.
Yeah. All right.
Very cool. Animation is often something that will really elevate the experience. Although I would say in the process of designing, still make sure your design is solid without animation. You can't really rely on, say, oh, okay, and this part will be animated and it'll be great.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see. This one is uploaded by Siddharth. This is the chat. There's purple again.
Yeah.
There's definitely a trend going on here. We get to see how many viewers are viewing it. We get a subscribe call to action up here. Oh, it looks like someone can actually record live while they're actually just watching videos. So they've got a very YouTube-esque treatment here, where you get to see when it was uploaded, and you have all these flags of what's new. I almost can see these new flags just being condensed and saying like new videos at the top here.
Exactly, yes.
That's really great.
I think with this, I think my main suggestion is the chat box really pops up so much. More so than the video itself. So the chat should really be a supporting component to the video. It should complement it but not distract from it. I think the chat box right now is just a little bit too strong visually.
Yeah, but if it is a feature that you want to highlight, there are a lot of ways to tone down, but also make the purple usage more prominent so that the chat really does get highlighted.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of times accent colors, they're
Right.
great, but they're rarely even used.
Right, yeah.
And a lot of times I don't put in the accent color until way later. So if you guys can recall in the design exercise that we were doing, I had actually selected out this blue accent color. In yesterday's exercise, we did an ADA color check of that color to make sure it's good to go. But when I'm designing, I'm not actually thinking of how this color would complement this feature or component.
Yeah.
I think successful design needs to work well in black and white first, and then you can plug in the colors.
Right, definitely great advice. That's where wireframing really kicks in with the grayscale. Let's go down here. Let's review maybe one more. Gummy Panda. Let's see. So, hide it over here. So we have, we have a chat, but we also have a schedule.
Nice.
It's a great way of utilizing that box on the side there, because it's like, what you had mentioned, you always need to be aware what you put above the fold.
Yes.
So right here, you get to see, this chat is actually applying onto the video. You see
I've
that?
seen one of those things where live comments
Like
pop
on
up
Facebook,
and
right? Yeah, this is a very
thing.
interesting treatment. I think it's also very satisfying. It gets you to chat more.
Gets you kind of fired up and seems super interactive.
Especially
as-
for a World Cup game.
Yeah, as long as they're, I hope it does like fade out, or you have a way to turn it off so it's not
It just
always there
builds up
throughout the
and
entire
covers,
experience. Yeah, but it's a really fun feature.
Yeah. This bullet comment is interesting here. I wonder what that does. But there are Live Now. Since Live Now was mentioned, maybe, not using the flags is a good way of, sparsing that out.
Yes.
And we have some merch.
Nice.
We got some merch that you can just go ahead and go shopping.
Yeah.
Go with that linear process, building the basket and checking out.
Basket building. I think for merch, I would, for the merch module, I would just recommend some sort of CTA. Or if there's add to cart buttons for a quick action, because right now it just kind of seems like a commercial advertisement banner, not as actionable as I think it should be. But
we really like how you just took the idea and ran with it and created more of a conversation of this is what could be added. Mandy's advice is definitely solid, just using the consistency.
I see a shop now.
Yeah, right here.
I see. Yeah.
But we didn't notice it at first.
It kind of blended in with the page. So I think one recommendation I would have is if it's a module like this where there's image in the background and a CTA button above, how do we set that apart to make it clear this is a button and the back image is for complementary reasons? I think you can set up rules where the space around that button is always above, or the space is always a solid color, so nothing distracting interferes with it.
Yeah, definitely. But overall, great job.
Yeah.
This was uploaded by Gummy Panda.
Cool.
We have Agata over here. Okay, one last one. Agata, let's see, uploaded a streaming platform. Okay, so I recognize this from yesterday. Let's see, so we have the fixed element, we have top streamers. You can also sort by different search settings. And it looks like you get to see more and browse and stream.
Yeah.
So that's what we got here.
I think in that example, up top on the navigation bar, there's the 3 dots. And I would say because it's a desktop website, there is a whole lot of real estate. And this is also somewhere where you can explore like a hamburger menu rather than a more icon, because I don't quite know what I would expect when I tap on that.
Right, definitely. Yeah, maybe it's in terms of, the pills that you had. It'd be fun of a little like scrolling effect to the side if there is a lot of information to display.
Yeah.
Okay, well, those were all of the challenges. We wanted to save the last couple minutes so that you can actually hop on over and show us some of the work that you've made as well.
So this is my website, mandyhan.com. If anyone wants to come here and say hi, go to the Find Me Here tab and say hello to me.
And
my
there's
website is fairly simple.
There's some like interesting, like diverse body of work that you've made, and it seems like there's just a lot of, interdisciplinary work that you do.
So my website is pretty much in chronological order. So from the most latest here at Walmart. Previously, I was at Lyft for a little bit, interned at Bon Appetit at Google. And then here are a bunch of freelance projects that I did. Some of these projects are locked, so fortunately, you guys may not be able to see, but I can talk about my illustration experience. So this is my senior thesis that I did at CCA, so I was focused on concept art for games, for movies. That's why I'm so into storytelling. So the first few pieces here are keyframes I painted in Photoshop. These are pretty old. I did these in 2016, 3 years ago. So these are paintings. They're all done on Photoshop. And then here are some character designs for the main characters. So little turnarounds, height comparison, and then I just included some notes and sketches. And then there's always like different expressions for them.
Neil the chipmunk.
Yep.
Or Neil the squirrel.
Neil the squirrel. And then this is the entire storyboard that I did. So the story goes from left to right and top and down. And all of these are done on Photoshop as well.
Yeah, that's really great.
Not quick, took a whole semester, but just like this is what I did for my senior thesis. And then something else I have is, this is a passion project. It started out as doodles on my notebook, but people really like them. So I thought I'd turn them into phone cases. I sold these for a little while. I'm thinking about making more. So these are a series called I Like My Food Leggy, where it sounds really weird when I say it out loud, but I just basically draw legs and food together, combine them together, just because I hate drawing the rest of the human body, especially. I like the legs and feet. I don't know why. I don't have a fetish, I swear, but just, yeah.
That's very fun.
Hands are particularly hard to draw. But yeah, and like food is always fun. So here are some close-ups of what it's like. And these brushes, they're all Kyle Webster brushes. I know he's been a guest here at Adobe as well. I'm a long-term just advocate for his brushes. They're awesome.
That's really great.
Yeah, some quick projects here.
Thanks for showing some of your work and some of your personality and your interests. We do have time for maybe one more review of a design challenge, so I'll have it pulled up here on my screen. Let's see. This one is uploaded by Cool Designer. So he had received feedback on his design and wanted to, or not he, they, not sure. So they had received feedback on their design and made some changes. So here is the newly designed and updated of Streamy.
Nice.
So there is the featured aspect with the carousel, popular games that are out, and top streams. I noticed that within a lot of like gaming platforms, there it does mimic a lot of this, where it shows a lot of different games out there, and it also is really prioritizing what the top most like popular streams are. So definitely do think that this is pertaining to the right audience.
Right, definitely. Yeah. Let's see on the side there.
On the side here.
Is that the chat that we saw yesterday? Oh no, that's the streamers.
Yeah, those are the streamers.
Cool.
Yeah, so this is prioritizing streamers over viewers.
Right.
Yeah, so we have that. This is great progress. This is, I just think the different usages of the visual elements are very useful, like the navigation over here. On the left is a great way to just ground where a user is at, so that they can parse through all this information in a successful manner.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, keep working at it. Great job. We have the Makiani says this is the first landing of live stream. So right here we have the chat on the left, and it's an overlay. So this is a really great way.
I like that they did darken the background of the chat a little, so it's a little more readable, which is good. And are those yellow reply buttons?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I guess you can call out to specific people and send a message to them.
Yeah. Makes me wonder what that experience will look like. Once you tap reply, is it an inline response thing that would pop up? Yeah,
it also is a good way to maybe, like, if you don't want it to say reply, just be like an at, and then putting their usernames.
Definitely, because a lot of times these guys go really quick, or there's a lag at some point, so you just get a whole bunch all at once, so you kind of lose the exact response that you're trying to reply to. Yeah, and another thing that popped up is how large the text field is with the enter button. So I think that could be minimized just a little bit, or to tie, and especially to visually tie it to the chat list a little more. Right now they're a little bit detached. My eyes have to go left and right quite a bit if I'm trying to reply and look at the messages at the same time. There's a lot of eye movements around the screen.
I see, yeah. But I also see, like, the text field is really large, which invites a lot of text.
Yeah.
So maybe referencing that first challenge we saw, where like the chat is appearing on the video itself, like that could be a fun way of bringing the chat more towards the left side.
Yeah.
But great job. Love the icons. Love the poppy color. Everything looks very delightful and exciting to use. Let's see here. We have some feedback going on back and forth here of, like, the navigations. Look at all these icons. This is just a really great way to utilize Discord and utilize these creative challenges to just quickly grow in terms of, like, making designs and understanding what it's like to have icons that don't appear well. It's just a really awesome community to dive into and follow up with that. And so,
it's super helpful to get feedback just really from anybody. A lot of times I ask for feedback from, like, specifically from non-designer friends of mine or coworkers from a different team, just because I think designers tend to think like each other, which is good, but sometimes you just need a fresh set of eyes without any context of anything. Because anyone could be the user, and honestly, most designers, there's only so little designers compared to the rest of the world, so it's honestly a more realistic feedback if you can get anyone, like family or something, to just take a quick look at your work.
Yeah, and definitely. And I'm so glad to have hosted you and to have just connected with a fellow CCA member.
Yeah.
And just learn more about what it's like to redesign a Hulu experience for mobile. My name's Joanne Lee. I'm here with Mandy. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We hope you learned a lot, and we hope you have a wonderful and happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween.
Bye.